Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, our brethren in Georgia, in Fiji Island, in Mexico, in Spain, in Africa, to the United Kingdom, and also to our brethren in Australia. And to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad, greetings. May the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. This is our episode number 4 on the subject, the chronological order of events. And it is specially and lovingly addressed to our beloved brother Steve. And I think at this time, it is even more important to have a clear conception and definite understanding concerning the plan of God in the gathering of His people, and even more particularly to the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad. I would like to read tract number 8, page 12. It says, "Better understand God's plan for the ingathering of the 12 tribes of Israel." So, we need to have a complete understanding how will our Almighty God gather the 144,000 living saints. We already studied several times that concerning the gathering of the 144,000 living saints, it is Jesus Christ who will gather them. According to 2TG 44, page 37, saying, "Who gathers the first fruits?" And of course, the answer is found on the next paragraph. "The Son of Man therefore gathers the first fruits." So it is Jesus Christ, the Son of Man. He will be the one to gather the 144,000 living saints, the spiritual Israel. So, the only thing that we need to study is in what way or how Jesus Christ will gather the 144,000 living saints. And secondly, when? When would be that predicted event be fulfilled? In 2TG 44, page 37, the quotation is Revelation 14, verses 14 to 16. And here in track number 3, page 48, the same verse that had been quoted here in track number 3, page 48, saying, this coming of the Son of Man is plainly, therefore, not when the resurrected and the living righteous are caught up together to meet him in the air. For verses 17 to 20, following the ones quoted in the paragraph above, reveal that after he came and reaped the earth, another angel having a sharp sickle came and reaped a second harvest. Before the wrath of God, the 7 last plagues in Revelation 15 verse 1 was poured out upon the wicked. So that is very plain, brothers and sisters. That coming is not the visible coming of Jesus Christ, but for sure, that is the invisible coming of Jesus Christ, represented by that stone in Daniel chapter 2, by which the shepherd's rod definitely declared that is pointing to the second coming of Christ. In 1 SR 230, it says, these 10 kings personate the civilization in the 5th period, or the one which followed Rome to our own time, and on to the second coming of Christ, according to Daniel 2 verse 44. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So that is very plain here. Daniel 2 verse 44 is pointing to the second coming of Christ, but not the visible coming of Jesus Christ, according to track number 3, page 48, but it must be pointing to the invisible coming of Jesus Christ, the second invisible coming of Jesus Christ. That is Daniel 2 verse 44, by which that is also Revelation 14 verse 14 to verse 16, by which in that coming, represented by the second invisible coming of Jesus Christ, is to cut out the stones, as is stated in Daniel 2, verse 34 and 35, that it is cut out without hands. And here in tract number 3, on page 49, saying, at the former coming of the Son of Man, that is Revelation 14, pointing to Revelation 14, verse 14 and 16. At the former coming of the Son of Man, the stone which smote the great image was cut out without hands, without man's aid, and by the Lord himself. Because, as the Lord says, there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. Therefore mine own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me, and I will tread down the people in mine anger, and make them drunk in my fury, and I will bring down their strength to the earth. Isaiah 63, verse 5 and verse 6. So, in that reading, in tract number 3, page 49, Revelation 14, verse 14 to 16, the shepherd's rod declared clearly that in that coming, that is the fulfillment, that the stone is cut out without hands, meaning without human aid. And the quotation is Isaiah 63, verse 5 and verse 6. It is very important, brethren, to study closely, more particularly to the whole chapter of Isaiah 63. Because those who will be among the 144,000 living saints, spiritual Israel, they are those who escape the ruin of Isaiah 59 and Isaiah chapter 63. So I would like to read 1 SR 153. The portion it says, with the 144,000, those who escape the ruin of Isaiah 59 and the ruin on Isaiah 63. 1 SR page 153. So, the only things that we need to do is to link all the statements recorded in the Shepherd's Rod publications. Now, the Shepherd's Rod plainly declared that the 144,000, they are those who had been able to escape the ruin of Isaiah 59 and the ruin on Isaiah 63. What is the ruin in Isaiah 59 and the ruin in Isaiah 63? Because unless we have a definite understanding concerning Isaiah 59 and 63, there is no possibility that we could be able to escape such ruin on Isaiah 59 and Isaiah 63. Now, I would like to read 1 SR 219 and 220. It says, to the prophet Isaiah, this great apostasy, fostered by blind spiritual guides, was revealed, which he describes in the following scriptures. And he saw that there was no man, and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore, his arm brought salvation unto him, and his righteousness, it sustained him. Isaiah 59, verse 16. And I looked, and there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. Therefore, mine own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury, it upheld me. Isaiah 63, verse 5. Micah, looking forward to this wholesale deception, says, trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide. Micah 7, verse 5. Now, in that reading, in 1 SR 219 and 220, the ruin mentioned in Isaiah 59, verse 16, and the ruin mentioned in Isaiah 63, verse 5, link to Micah 7, verse 5, is pointing to the great apostasy, and also called as the wholesale deception. So, to escape such ruin is to have a complete understanding what is such great apostasy. What is such wholesale deception? So, here we can easily discern that the people, the 144,000 living saints, is spiritual Israel, those who will be gathered by Jesus Christ, are those people who had been able to escape such great apostasy. To those people who have been able to escape such wholesale deception. So, that is very plain, my dear brothers and sisters. Now, I would like to connect track number 9, page 69. And then, we will go back to that great apostasy and wholesale deception. Now let us read track number 9. Page 69. Track number 9, page 69. It says, from this, the truth is again seen that the first and the second fruits of the living, the one gathered from within the church at the commencement of the great and dreadful day. Track number 9, page 69. Now, when would be the first fruits, the 144,000 living saints, that they will be gathered? According to that reading in track number 969, at the commencement of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Now, who is he that will gather the 144,000 living saints? The absolute answer given by the shepherd's rod, it is the Son of Man, Jesus Christ. To TG 44:37. When? At the coming of the Son of Man, recorded in Revelation 14, verse 14 to 16. And what coming is that? According to track number 3, page 49, that is the coming of Jesus Christ, by which the stone is cut out without hands. So what does it mean that they had been cut out without hands? Meaning, by the Lord Himself, according to that reading in track number 3, page 49. And we connect Isaiah 63 verse 5 because it was quoted on that reading in track number 3, page 49. And accordingly, Isaiah 63 verse 5, together with Isaiah 59 verse 16, along with Micah 7 verse 5, in 1 SR 219 and 220, it is called the Great Apostasy, and also called as wholesale deception. And those only who will be able to escape such great apostasy, such wholesale deception, they will be the only ones that will be gathered by Jesus Christ. Now, I would like to read White House Recruiter on page 65. White House Recruiter, page 65. It says, moreover, the contents of Hosea's timely vision decisively point out that this great worldwide work of ingathering cannot begin till Jezreel appears on the scene. White House Recruiter on page 65. So that is very plain, brothers and sisters, that such great worldwide ingathering of the saints will not begin not until Jezreel appears on the scene. Now here in 2TJ 43, page 16, it says, 2TG 43, page 16. The prophecy, nevertheless, continues and projects to the gathering time. The time God's penitent people appoint to themselves one head, a king. Now, I would like to read the next paragraph. Who is the earthly head king, whom the scriptures say the people appoint at the gathering time? Let us read. Then the quotation is Hosea 3 verse 4 and 5. So, we will no longer read. Brothers and sisters, of course, all of us will agree that this one head in Hosea 1 verse 11 is the antitypical David. According to this reading in 2TJ 43, page 16 and page 17. So, that one head in Hosea 1 verse 11, according to this reading in 2TJ 43, 16 and 17, is the antitypical David in Hosea 3 verse 4 and verse 5. Now, we know that Bithihotep also has a counterpart of that prophecy, but I think no faithful Davidian will say that that predicted event was completely fulfilled in the days of Bithihotep. Now, here in 2TG number 6, page 18, 2TG number 6, page 18, it says, now what is it all about? It is not too difficult to see. The one to whom God speaks, Jezreel, represents a prophet. His brother and sister, Amai and Ruhama, can only represent the church membership, both male and female. In actuality, Jezreel must deliver God's message to them. So that statement, in actuality, Jezreel must deliver God's message to Amai and Ruhama at this present time can no longer be applied to Ptihotep. And 100%, the perfect fulfillment of the prophecy concerning Amay and Ruhama is pointing to the 144,000 living saints, spiritual Israel. Now here in 2TG21, page 9, it says, the command, say ye unto your brethren, Amay, unto your sisters, Ruhama, in itself explains that God is speaking to Jezreel, Amay and Ruhama's brother, and that Jezreel in turn is to speak to Amay and to Ruhama. 2TG 21 verse 2TG 21 page 9 brother. Brothers and sisters, 2TG 21 page 9. So that statement could no longer be applied to Ptihotep because the dead cannot speak. And the statement to TG 21, page 9, it says that Jezreel in turn, he must speak to Ruhama and Amay. So, to repeat again, we need to study closely God's plan in the ingathering of the 144,000 spiritual Israel. And according to this prophecy, one of the plan of God in the ingathering of the 144,000 spiritual Israel is that God would raise up antitypical Jezreel or antitypical David. But we need to focus more on Hosea 1 verse 11 and Hosea 3 verse 4 and 5. To repeat again, God's plan before He will gather the 144,000 spiritual Israel, God anointed or God raised up Jezreel first. And we already read in 2TG 43:15 that is pointing to antitypical David. And we know that antitypical David is also the man in Luke 19, verse 12, 13, and 14. According to tract number 8. So let us read tract number 8. So it says here, tract number 8 on page 71. It says, as they sent a message after him, saying, we will not have this man to reign over us. The only conclusion admissible is that shortly before his return, Christ shall inform his citizens that he is taking the reins in his own hands to set up his kingdom And thus they, upon hearing the announcement, shall refuse to submit themselves to the one through whom he is to rule. Observe that in the message which they sent after him, his servants did not say, "We will not have you to reign over us," but rather, "We will not have this man to reign over us." What they objected to was Christ reigning over them through someone else. Clearly then, before he is coronated and prior to his return to reckon with his servants, he appoints a man to reign over them in his stead. Whereupon they say to him, by their attitude and stand toward his message, we will not have this man to reign over us. Although this man, as we now see, is the antitypical David. The simple means the visible king. Track number 8, page 71. So, it is even more important to study how to recognize, how to determine that man appointed by Jesus Christ, he is the antitypical David. Because without any doubts, there are plenty of counterfeits. So, how could we be able to recognize that such man is the antitypical David? There must be a divine earmark, because God does not want his people to remain in darkness or in ignorance, brothers and sisters. So, how could we be able to recognize that Jesus Christ is taking the reign in his own hands? I would like to read the old symbolical. For symbolic code, 10 to 12, page 5. For symbolic code, 10 to 12, on page 5, it says, taking the reins into his own hands. It says, as most of our people hardly understand what the spirit of prophecy means by the statement, the Lord shall take the reins in his own hands. Testimonies to Ministers, page 300. We are writing the following paragraphs. Then it says, the foregoing prophetic statement reveals two definite things. So, TM page 300 reveal two definite things. First, that the Lord is not now holding the reins in His own hands. So that is very plain. B.T. Hotep is plainly telling that the perfect fulfillment of TM page 300 was not yet fulfilled in His days. Saying, first, that the Lord is not now holding the reins in His own hands. And second, that at some time, meaning at some time in the future, it says, He will do so. So, God will fulfill what He promised, that sometime in the future, God will fulfill such promise that He will take the reins in His own hands. But He will take the reins in His own hands through that someone else, which is the antitypical David. You know, brothers and sisters, when I'm reading answerer number 1, that only those who overcome temptation or withstood temptation, answerer number 1, page 83, only those, answerer number 1, page 83, only those who have withstood temptation in the strength of the mighty one, once the spirit of prophecy will be permitted to act a part in proclaiming it, the third angel's message, when it shall have swelled into the loud cry. The Review and Herald, November 19, 1908. The statement will be permitted to proclaim the message in the loud cry, and the only one who can proclaim the message in the loud cry is the 144,000. Therefore, brothers and sisters, the only one that will be a part of that 144,000 living saints are those who have been able to overcome temptation. And here, one of the temptation as, let me see if we can find that statement. Recorded on the old symbolic code, that those who will not be tempted to say, we will not have this man to reign over us. That is concerning, let me see, in Luke 19, so here, old symbolic code on page 1 symbolic code, number 16, page 5. 1 symbolic code, number 16, page 5, it says, those who fall in this temptation. So, what temptation? That is pointing to Luke 19:14. Let's read. 1 symbolic code, 16:5. those who fall in this temptation and pride of opinion are fulfilling Luke 19:14. At this time when Christ is taking the reins in his own hands, they are, by their actions, sending a message to him. We will not have this man to reign over us. One symbolic code, number 16, page 5. And that is why the shepherd's rod declared clearly here in 4 symbolic code, 10 to 12, page 5. So let us read. It says, let us read the statement. That is, as God is not now ruling the denomination through its present organization, He must reorganize it. Moreover, it is stated that God will do this by means so simple. So it says that God will do this by means so simple that even the workers will be surprised. That is, He is not going to start reorganizing the denomination by something great, something complicated, or something which the world calls wonderful, but rather by humble means, quietly, slowly, steadily, and as naturally as represented by the mustard seed. Matthew 13, verse 31 and verse 32. And also as the unnoticeable lump of leaven working in dough, verse 33, whereas the workers will still want to control the work, but they will lose out as grass is choked by the wheat. As God's taking the reins in His own hands has been demonstrated in time past, none need remain ignorant of the method He will now employ to perfect His work of righteousness, nor of the system He will use to rule over His own. Now let us continue reading. It says, in the days when Pharaoh reigned over God's people, the Lord did not send a great army led by a general trained in the school of the world to set them free and to give him a chance to rule over them. But He sent Moses, the simple means, with his shepherd's rod. To Pharaoh, this appeared so simple, so small, that he paid but little attention to that which was then taking place. Nevertheless, as he saw the leaven working in his kingdom, at times he became convinced that he should let Israel go. But as he viewed Moses' work, simple as it was, his heart hardened and he said, it cannot be of God. I will not let Israel go. This was repeated time and again. Then finally, the blow came by the death of the firstborn, and there was a great cry throughout the land of Egypt as Israel went out. But as Pharaoh was not yet convinced that God had taken the reins in his own hands, he and his army went to bring them back. Therefore, God employed the Red Sea as a means to protect His people and as a means to destroy Pharaoh and his army. The Lord will work in no less miraculous a manner now to free his people from being ruled by a worldly organization. He will command the work himself in the same manner as he did in Moses and David's day. For symbolic code, 10 to 12, pages 5 and 6. Now, first of all, ponder deeply, brothers and sisters, the example given by God when God take the reins in his own hands in the days of Moses and in the days of David. When God take the reins in his own hands in the days of Moses, did Moses at that time have a headquarter? Did God establish great headquarter at that time in order to save God's people? How about in the days of David? Now, brothers and sisters, let us now study closely the shepherd's rod and ponder deeply. The voice of inspiration says that all the workers will be surprised because God will work out of common order of things. In Testimonies to Ministers, page 300, by which God will work in a very simple manner. And the illustration given is like a mustard seed. Now, I would like to read to you 2TG. 2TG number 11. It is page 6. 2TG number 11, page 6. Mustard seed, being the smallest of all seeds, this parable shows that that which is to start the kingdom will be very insignificant, contrary to all human expectation. That is the statement. It does say, contrary to many human expectation. No, to all. To all human expectation. Like Pharaoh. Brothers and sisters, when they notice that, oh, they have no headquarters. It cannot be of God. Because the expectation of all the obedient brothers and sisters, the same with all others, that there must be a great organization. There must be an established headquarters. No. That is not the way our God works. I would like to read again the statement here in 2TG number 11, page 6. Mustard seed, being the smallest of all seeds, this parable shows that that which is to start the kingdom will be very insignificant, contrary to all human expectation. Now, this is not the kingdom in the Middle East, in Mount Zion, because there are many great events that will occur prior to that time. It is pointing to God's spiritual kingdom. For example, I would like to read to you track number 3. Then we will go back to that reading. Track number 3 on page 54. It says here, the seed sower. Who is the seed sower? The Son of Man. The seed. What is the seed? The present truth. The field. What is the field? Christ Object Lands on page 70. The church. But what seed here? It must be the mustard seed. How do you know that there is a seed planted in the bottom of the soil? Only He, the one that planted the seed, have a complete knowledge that He planted a seed in that field. So it is only Jesus Christ. So it is the absolute prerogative of Jesus Christ to tell the people that I have planted the mustard seed into that field. For example, brothers and sisters, here in track number 3, I love so much this reading. It says, track number 3, on page 88, it says, this fourfold view of the judgment. So, fourfold view of the judgment. The harvest thus exalts the truth of it as a pearl of great price, and reveals that the depths of God's word are unfathomable, its wisdom inscrutable and infinite, without beginning and without end, its fund of knowledge a perpetual fountain of truth, its presence ever abiding, and its beauty ineffable. What is that pearl of a great price? The fourfold view of the judgment. Fourfold view of the judgment. Here in 1 TG, number 18. On page 20. It says, 1 TG number 18, page 20. In the terms of the parables, all this can be summed as follows. 1 TG, number 18, page 20 and 21. So let us read, brothers and sisters. It says, in the terms of the parables, all this can be summed as follows. Those who successfully aim to be spared as wheat, to be spared as good fish, and to put on the wedding garment, are those who have found the field of great treasure and the pearl of great price, and have done all to purchase them to become his own, or to be a part of that field. So the shepherds are declared clearly in 1 TG number 18, page 20. If you want to be spared of such oncoming destruction, then you need to find out that field by which the pearl of a great price is in that field. And according to the shepherd's rod, in track number 3, page 88, that the divine earmark that you can recognize that that is the field, because in that field, the fourfold view of the judgment is completely revealed. Now let us read first what is the field in Christ's object lesson. Christ's object lesson. Page 70. The field, Christ said, is the world. But we must understand this as signifying the church of Christ in the world. So what is the field? The church. The church of Christ. That is the field. Now we have now two illustrations of that field. The mustard seed and the pearl of a great price. That according to the shepherd's rod in 1 TG number 18, page 20, that those people who are willing to be spared for such oncoming destruction, he need, brothers and sisters, without any delay, to find out where is that pearl of a great price, what field by which God placed that pearl of a great price. And according to track number 3, page 88, that the only way that you could ascertain clearly that that is the field by which the pearl of a great price had been bestowed by God into that field, which is the church, it must be the church by which the fourfold view of the judgment has been completely revealed into that church. I do fully believe that that is the 11th hour church. Because according to White House Recruiter on page 34, it says, White House Recruiter on page 34, it says, with the completed judgment message during the 11th hour. So since that fourfold view of the judgment is contained the complete revelation of the judgment, and the shepherd's rod is plainly telling us that such judgment message will be completed in the period of the 11th hour. White House Recruiter, page 34. Therefore, it must be the 11th hour church. Now, such statement is also perfectly corroborating to the statement in White House Recruiter on page 39. Now, I would like to read this statement. All who have perused these pages to this point have surely become aware of the fact that even this very restricted representation of the additional message, that of the judgment of the living, gives in itself tremendous power and force to the three angels' messages. But in what way is it to give absolute power and force to them? First, by bringing to light the heretofore unrevealed aspects of the judgment, then subsequently by freeing God's people from both sin and sinners, thereby bringing into existence the long-looked-for purified church that looketh forth as the morning, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, and terrible as an army with banners. Song of Solomon, chapter 6, verse 10. Prophets and Kings, page 725. A veritable powerhouse indeed. White House Recruiter, page 39. So, what is the statement? Not until all the aspects that pertains to the judgment will be completely revealed, then that is the time that the third angel's message will swell into the loud cry. And who will proclaim the loud cry? The 144,000 living saints. Who are they that will not be permitted to proclaim the message into the loud cry? They are those who refuse to submit themselves to the one whom God appointed to reign in his stead. So in that evidences, we can easily discern that one of the factor that you can ascertain clearly that he is the man appointed by God to reign in his stead, because unto him will be bestowed by God all the aspects that pertains to the judgment. All the aspects, not only a part, but all the aspects that pertains to the judgment. Now, concerning the aspects of the judgment, the very first aspect is the bookwork in the heavenly sanctuary. Now, I would like to read answerer number 5, page 30. So, it says here, this is the first aspect of the judgment. If you have leisure time, you can read the entire page. But I would like to read only the last portion to minimize time. Answerer number 5, page 30, it says, this is the first aspect of the judgment, and being only a bookwork. Daniel 7, verse 10, a work that does not disturb either the dead in the graves or the living in the church. It takes place in heaven. So the first aspect of the judgment is the judicial proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. And the entire proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary is purely bookwork transaction. Remember the statement in White House Recruiter, page 39, it says, all the unrevealed aspect. So, all the aspects that pertains to the judgment must be completely revealed before it will swell into a loud cry, according to that reading in White House Recruiter, page 39. So, the only way that you can easily discern and recognize that he is the man appointed by Jesus Christ to reign in his stead is through the message that had been bestowed by God unto him. It is pertaining to the fourfold view of the judgment. The fourfold view of the judgment. So we need to enumerate one by one the first view, second view, the third view, and the fourth view of the judgment. Because this fourfold view is the pearl of a great price. And only those that have been able to find out the field, which is the church, which is the 11th hour church, by which God deposited into that 11th hour church the fourfold view of the judgment. All the aspects of the judgment are completely revealed and unfolded into that church. That is the field. And only those who take that field will be spared. According to 1 TG number 18 on page 20. And that is why if you will read the next paragraph, it says, in 1 TG number 18 on page 20, it says, solemn times we have come to, brother, sister. Now is the time to put on the white garment. Now is the time to buy the field with the great treasure and the pearl of great price. Shall you, shall I, is the great question that we must quickly settle without others people's influence or interference. 1 TG number 18, page 20 and page 21. Now let us read 2 TG. Why is it that it is also illustrated by a mustard seed? Let's read 2 TG number 11, page 6. It says, 2 TG number 11 on page 6. Mustard seed, being the smallest of all seeds, this parable shows that that which is to start the kingdom will be very insignificant, contrary to all human expectation. Why is it that when they heard the message and after they knew that the message cometh from a group of people by which they have no headquarters, they were ordinary people, they immediately rejected because all human expectation, they expected that the message or the gospel proclamation will be finished by such headquarters. Although the shepherd's rod does not teach, brothers and sisters, they misapplied and misconstrued the shepherd's rod publications. More particularly, Micah 7, verse 14 and verse 15. Grossly misconstrued. Now, I would like to read 2TG number 11, page 6. It says, nevertheless, like the mustard plant becomes the biggest of all herbs, so the kingdom shall grow and become the greatest of all kingdoms. This being contrary to all human planning. That is very plain. Contrary to all human planning. Human planning, that is pointing to any program, the gospel proclamation by which it cannot be supported by the word it is written. That is human planning. And that's why the very first reading we read in tract number 8, page 12, better understand God's plan. We need the plan of God. And God's plan is already recorded in the Bible, interpreted by the shepherd's rod. That is the plan of God. Let's read. 2TG number 11, page 6. This being contrary to all human planning, it is but natural that those who are like Nicodemus and continue to be ashamed to be identified with something that is unpopular, hated, and insignificant will as a result be left out of the kingdom. Although we know that Nicodemus did not continue to be ashamed, to be identified with something that is unpopular, hated, and insignificant, will as a result be left out of the kingdom. It is very insignificant because they will say, when they listen to the message, you know what? Instead of studying, if the message is supported by the word it is written, the very first question is that, where is your headquarters? And that is why it reminds me that statement in tract number 14 under the subject of the war news forecast in the book of Nahum. Let's read. And we can paraphrase this statement. Tract number 14 on page 30. Tract number 14, page 30. For the head of Syria is Damascus, not heaven. What is Damascus? Headquarters of Syria. And the head of Damascus is risen, not the Lord. What is risen? The king of Syria. Now, brothers and sisters, what is our head? For me, at this time, our head is in heaven. And our head is Jesus Christ, our Lord. Tract number 14 on page 30. Now let us go back to our main subject concerning the ingathering of the 144,000 living saints. Now, we already read, brothers and sisters, that such ingathering will not begin, not until Jezreel appears on the scene. White House Recruiter, page 65. And in TG 43:15, that is pointing to 16:17, pointing to antitypical David, or 2TG 43:16. The one head represents the antitypical David, according to the Shepherd's Rod. And that antitypical David is the simple means. The man in Luke 19, verse 12, 13, and 14, according to track number 8 on page 71. Now, we connect one subject to the other. The Shepherd's Rod give us an absolute divine earmark to recognize who is he, the antitypical David, appointed by God to reign in his stead. It is through the message by which God bestowed unto that servant. And it is the fourfold view of the judgment, meaning the entire proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary as well as on the earthly sanctuary. Now, I would like to read to you track number 15. On page 13. Track number 15 on page 13. Both seers distinctly declare that the events which they saw was the judgment, meaning Daniel and John the Revelator. The difference between the two scenes is that Daniel was led to look into the sanctuary while the preparations were being made for the judgment to convene. Whereas John was led to look into the sanctuary after the judgment had been set up. In fact, John not only saw the judgment in progress, but he saw the whole proceeding from start to finish. Track number 15 on page 13. Therefore, we can easily understand that to understand the book of Revelation is to have a complete understanding the entire proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary from start to finish. Because that is the vision that was shown by God to John the Revelator. Although the true Revelator is Jesus Christ, but that is the common term used by many Christians, called him as John the Revelator. So the Shepherd's Rod is very plain that the entire book of John, the entire book of Revelation, is a revelation of the entire proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary from start to finish. So the statement, all the unrevealed aspects of the judgment, in White House Recruiter, page 39, can simply be understood that it points out to the entire revelation of the book of Revelation. I would like to read first, brethren, in 1 TG, number 10, page 18. It says, the Bible contains the complete plan of salvation for all humanity. What is the Bible? Contains the complete formula of the plan of salvation or the plan of redemption. What would you think? Such complete formula of the plan of redemption. Would you think it will be revealed by God after probation closes? Then for what purpose? Such revelation, brethren. Obviously, brothers and sisters, it must be revealed prior to the close of provision. By which in such revelation, in such unfoldment, we can still be profited by it. For it will be revealed after probation closes. The same with the statement in track number 1. In page 26. It would be a mockery then. Illogical that it would be revealed after probation closes. Now, let me read to you here in track number 15. On page 35. It says here, having now gone through these preliminaries, the student of advancing truth should be ready understandingly to study the revelation of the things which are to prepare the way and enable him wholeheartedly to know that now the time is at hand, that a knowledge of the revelation will enable him to stand in the great and dreadful day of the Lord. If the knowledge of the book of Revelation is the only one that will enable us, that we could be able to stand, we could be able to survive the great and dreadful day of the Lord, then obviously, such revelation, such unfoldment of the book of Revelation must be unfolded prior to the commencement of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, by which the only way that we could be able to survive that period of time, great and dreadful day of the Lord, is our knowledge in the book of Revelation. Then it must be unfolded. It must be revealed prior to the commencement of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Remember, the great and dreadful day of the Lord, the commencement of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, is also the commencement of the ingathering of the 144,000 living saints. I would like to read again. Track number 9, page 69. From this, the truth is again seen that the first and the second fruits of the living, the one gathered from within the church at the commencement of the great and dreadful day. You see? It says, at the commencement of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Brothers and sisters, that is the time by which the 144,000 living saints are gathered. Then we can easily understand, brothers and sisters, that such great and dreadful day of the Lord. The only one that will be gathered are those people by which to them the complete plan of redemption had been unfolded. And that is the knowledge of the book of Revelation. Now, I would like to connect to you the book of Joel. Let's read the Old Symbolical. Joel 2 verse 15, 16, and 17. And it is entitled, To the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. So, 2 Symbolic Code 9, page 2. 2 Symbolic Code number 9 on page 2. It says, To the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. Or I would like to elaborate it more. To the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad, greetings. And listen carefully because this message is addressed to all the living saints, spiritual Israel. And then the quotation is Joel 2 verse 15 to 17. Let us read. Blow the trumpet in Zion. Sanctify a fast. Call a solemn assembly. Gather the people. Sanctify the congregation. Assemble the elders. Gather the children and those that suck the breast. Let the bridegroom maybe there is let me see in the Bible itself. That is verse. Let the bridegroom go forth. But here, so this one is, there is a clerical error. So it says, let the bridegroom go forth of his chamber, and the bride out of her closet. Let the priests, the ministers of the Lord, weep between the porch and the altar. And let them say, spare thy people, O Lord, and give not thine heritage to reproach, that the heathen should rule over them. Wherefore should they say among the people, where is their God? Can you still remember historically, when was that time by which they say, where is their God? That is the time when King Sennacherib attacked the kingdom of Judah in the days of King Hezekiah. So it is closely connected to the Assyrian Confederacy. Let me read to you. It is found in the book of Kings as well as in the book of Isaiah also. And Isaiah chapter 36, also in Isaiah chapter 37, and also in the book of Kings. Now, let us go back to our subject, Joel 2 verse 15 to 17. Now, brothers and sisters, let me read to you General Conference Special. I would like to read this. General Conference Special, page 19. It says, General Conference Special, page 19. Jewel 2 chapters give us a most compact and vivid view of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. You see, brothers and sisters, Jewel's 2 chapters, meaning chapter 1 and chapter 2, and more particularly to chapter 2, it says, give a vivid view, clear view, very clear, very apparent, concerning the great and dreadful day of the Lord. From this alone, we can clearly see what it is like. And as Elijah comes just before that day begins, he must necessarily be the one who is to interpret these prophecies of the day and who consequently announces that the day is at hand. Now, concerning Joel chapter 2, the shepherd says that no one can proclaim that day, the great and dreadful day of the Lord, except antitypical Elijah. And for sure, that is pointing to antitypical Elijah that is by. The only thing that had been proclaimed by B.T. Hotep is, what is the great and dreadful day of the Lord? But he never proclaimed when would be the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And that is the reason why on General Conference Special, on page 10 and page 11, General Conference Special, pages 10 and page 11, it says, to know when and what the great and dreadful day itself is all important. General Conference Special, pages 10 and 11. To know when and what the great and dreadful day of the Lord itself is all important. Without this knowledge, who could possibly discern Elijah when he should come? So there are two Elijahs mentioned here. Antitypical Elijah John the Baptist, he proclaimed, what is the great and dreadful day of the Lord? And B.T. Hotep says, that is the day of slaughter. But to proclaim when would be the great and dreadful day of the Lord, B.T. Hotep never proclaimed when would be the great and dreadful day of the Lord, because that work was not committed by God to antitypical Elijah John the Baptist. That work is committed by God to antitypical Elijah the Tishbite. And that is one of the divine earmark that you can determine that he is the antitypical Elijah the Tishbite, because unto him was bestowed the knowledge when would be the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Of course, that demonstrative or that interrogative pronoun, when, brothers and sisters, indicates time. As a matter of fact, B.T. Hotep made it so plain in track number 8 on page 61. It says, track number 8, page 61, it says, therefore, the work of Elijah particularly typifies the day of slaughter in the church. But historically, it is even more definitely applied to the day of slaughter of all the prophets and priests of Baal. Pointing to the second showdown. The antitypical showdown. As stated in 2TG 41, page 7. Now, I would like to read 2TG 41 on page 7. Moreover, Amos, by the eye of inspiration, looked down through the centuries, deep into the Christian era, and declared, Amos 1 verse 2, the Lord will roar from Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the habitations of the shepherd shall mourn, and the top of Carmel shall wither. This scripture, you see, reflects the tragedy which took place on the top of Carmel in the days of Elijah. Here we are given the hint that there is to be another showdown between the prophet of God and the prophets of Baal. The prophets of Baal in our day even boast that they are not inspired, that what they teach and preach is what they themselves discovered by deep study and research. They even sneer at those who claim to be inspired of the Lord. 2TG 41, page 7. Of course, the statement there, the prophet of God, that is pointing to antitypical Elijah the Tishbite. Now, brothers and sisters, one of the most misconstrued and misapplied and misinterpreted in the Shepherd's Rod publications is Amos 1 verse 2 and Micah 7 verse 14 and 15. That is very clear, brothers and sisters. It was grossly misconstrued by many Davidians. So, I would like to tell brothers and sisters that the only way that you could be able to ascertain clearly that such interpretation in Amos 1 verse 2 being typological truths and Micah 7 verse 14-15 being typological truths is to view the picture, to view the photograph, or in other words, to view the occurrence in the past. I remember this statement in 1888 message. I would like to quote that statement. It says, history is the only true commentary on the prophecies, and the only true exposition of the prophecies is to set down together the history and the prophecy. Because history, as it really is but the complement of prophecy as it is written. So, that is a wonderful statement, brothers and sisters. It says that history is the only true commentary on the prophecies. That is pointing to typological prophecy. If our commentary on that typological prophecy contradicts to the history, that is not the true commentary. That is erroneous. Even the shepherd's rod declared clearly, brethren, that here in 1 SR 226, the types themselves are not the true object. The type themselves are not the true object, no more than a photograph is, but it is a representation which pictures an unmistakable evidence, the object in view. So the purpose of the type is to serve as the photograph to picture out the true object in view with unmistakable evidence. And I remember one of the significance on 1 SR concerning the divine command given by God to Ezekiel here in 128 1 SR. He says, 1 SR 128, it is engraved on a tile, it cannot be erased. It says, if it is engraved on a tile, it cannot be erased. The thought is that the prophecy will surely come to pass. And after it once becomes history, one cannot erase the things portrayed. It is there to stay through all ages. You could no longer erase the history. It is there throughout all the ages, and you cannot deceive, brothers and sisters, or you cannot twist the meaning of the history. And that is the type, pictured out with unmistakable evidence, the true object in view. So whatever explanation that we will give, Amos 1 verse 2, Micah 7 verse 14 and 15, since these are both typological truths, brothers and sisters, it must be in harmony with the photograph. It must be in harmony with the picture. If it is not in harmony, then such interpretation must be erroneous, brothers and sisters. So, that is very plain. And that is why, historically, according to the prophets and kings, brothers and sisters, Mount Carmel of old is full of beauty within 20 years. brothers and sisters. And would you think it is just a mere happenstance? No. It is purposive design because it portrays to the antitype, the antitypical Mount Carmel. It is spiritually, it is full of beauty from 1935 to 1955. At the end of 20 years, Elijah abandoned Mount Carmel. And he was hidden by God for 3.5 years with different places. So the disappearance of Elijah, or the time when Elijah immediately disappeared in Mount Carmel, according to the history, gradually, Mount Carmel, brothers and sisters, is dying. But we know that is literal. But in 1955, when God permitted Beti-Hotep to rest in his grave, that is the time by which Elijah disappeared in Mount Carmel. And gradually, brothers and sisters, spiritually, Mount Carmel is dying. Spiritually. But, after, brothers and sisters, such 3.5 years, but actually, according to the history, at the end of 3 years, God commanded Elijah to go back to Mount Carmel and tell them that God will send rain. But it is still 6 months that God would send rain. But just to inform them, if they will repent. Brothers and sisters. But at the end of the 3.5 years, that is the time that the showdown occurred, brothers and sisters. The showdown occurred. After the showdown, what happened to Elijah? Still, he abandoned Mount Carmel, right? So we need to look at to the historical event which pictured out with unmistakable evidence the true object in view. Now, I would like to go back to our subject because in reality that is not really our subject, but only a part. Because for me, all the subject is closely connected. Now let us go back to Joel chapter 2, verse 15 to 17. Reading to symbolic code number 9, page 2. It says, Joel's prophecy above quoted must meet its fulfillment in the time when provisions hours are fast closing. That is pointing to the church. Because Zion cannot represent the world. Blow the trumpet in Zion. What is Zion? I would like to read White House Recruiter. White House Recruiter, page 53. It says, And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion at headquarters. What is Zion? Headquarters. Now here's another statement. Old symbolic code concerning Zion. To symbolic code, number 9, page 8 and 9. To symbolic code, number 9, pages 8 and page 9. It says here, brothers and sisters, the explanation of the names Zion and Jerusalem must be obtained from the facts available about ancient Zion and Jerusalem, the types. So ancient Zion and Jerusalem, the types. Zion of Isaiah 52 verse 1 represents an animate object. For it would be foolish to say to a hill, awake, awake. Hence, Zion of this scripture is figurative of a people. On ancient Zion's exalted hill stood the palace of the king, and the rulers of the people dwelt at Jerusalem. The rest of the people also cast lots to bring one of them to dwell in Jerusalem, the holy city, and 9 parts to dwell in other cities. The above paragraph proves that upon Mount Zion lived the king, and in Jerusalem lived the rulers and the representatives of the nation. Therefore, the call in the antitype, Isaiah 52 verse 1, awake, awake, put on the strength of Zion, put on the beautiful garments of Jerusalem, is to the 144,000, to those whom John saw standing with the lamp on antitypical Mount Zion. So the shepherd's rod is very plain. The direct application is pointing to the 144,000 living saints. Blow the trumpet in Zion. Now here in the General Conference is special. General Conference is special. On page 34, it says here, since God is not experimenting, and since He means just what He says, there should be no doubt in your minds that the scriptures concerning antitypical Elijah, he who is to awaken the church and to warn the Laodiceans of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, make sure that he is one person. So that antitypical Elijah, both antitypical Elijah John the Baptist, which is Bethihotep, that is one person, as well as antitypical Elijah, the Tishbite, it must also be one person. And he is the one to blow the trumpet in Zion. I would like to read page 19 in General Conference Special. It says, to re-emphasize the fact, General Conference Special, page 19, to re-emphasize the fact, let it be said again that being the last of the prophets, Elijah is therefore the only one who can open to our understanding all the prophecies of the scriptures pertaining to the great and dreadful day of the Lord, prophecies which heretofore had been only mysteries to all. Thus he is, as the scriptures say, to blow the trumpet in Zion and to sound an alarm in God's holy mountain in the church. General Conference Special, page 90. He is the only one that had been commanded by God to blow the trumpet in Zion as well as in Jerusalem. But on the first hand, it must be blown the trumpet is addressed to the inhabitants in Zion. What is Zion? Headquarters. White House Recruiter on page 53. I would like to read to you, brothers and sisters, here in 2SR. Here in 2SR, page 101. Beginning from page 100. If God's ideal is to bless the world through the medium of His church on earth, and they to whom the gospel for the world is committed have left the ship and are serving the devil in the person of themselves, where is the hope of the world? And then the shepherd says, the only answer that can be given is, woe to the sinners in Zion. God will gather His sheep. He will have a church. What does it mean? Woe to the sinners in Zion. God will gather His sheep. Now let us go to answerer number 4. Answerer number 4. On page 22 and page 23. And it is concerning Isaiah 63, by which the only one who could be a part of that special company, 144,000 living saints, according to 1SR 153, they are those who would escape the ruin in Isaiah 59 and Isaiah 63. And it says here, answerer number 4, page 22 and 23. The first part of the verse apply to the first advent of Christ. Meaning, the first part of verse 3 of chapter 63, Isaiah. The first part of the verse apply to the first advent of Christ. And the last part to the time of the purification of the church. Then it says that whoever continues to hold his people in bondage and in ignorance of his truth, will he tread in his anger and trample them in his fury and sprinkle their blood upon his garments, thereby staining all his raiment and thus setting his people free. So those who continue to hold God's people, that is pointing to the 144,000. Why is it that there is a divine pronouncement on 2SR 101 that woe to the sinners in Zion? What is Zion? Headquarters. Brothers and sisters, remember, Sanhedrin represent headquarters. 13 Symbolic Code 5 and 6, page 27. And in 2TG 41, page 8, it is the Sanhedrin that rejected Christ's message. Also Desire of Ages 232. And they are the very ones that hinder God's message. Therefore, that statement in 2SR 101, to them who hinder God's message. And that is the reason that God's people are in bondage, in spiritual bondage, and woe unto them. Because God will gather the 144,000. Jesus Christ will gather the 144,000. And at the time when Jesus Christ arrived to this earth, in that visitation, and still we continually hinder God's message. Brothers and sisters, that is the commencement of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Here in 2TG number 8, page 19, it says, 2TG number 8, page 19, here you see that a message is to be proclaimed to the church, to Zion. 2TG number 8, page 19. Here you see that a message is to proclaim to the church. Who will proclaim it? Antitypical Elijah is bride. Here you see that a message is to be proclaimed to the church, to Zion, declaring that the great and dreadful day of the Lord is at hand. That it is to be devastating behind His people and glorious ahead of them. That the Lord is thoroughly to comb the field, that He is to gather every grain of wheat and then burn the tares. To TG8, page 9. In internet, I received a message telling me that stop deceiving people. Stop misleading the people. Well, for me, the warning is good. That even myself, I need to meditate and ponder deeply. If what I'm doing is in reality, I'm only deceiving the people, I am misleading the people, then I need to stop it. I need to discontinue such effort. Brethren, we proclaim this message with a great sacrifice. Nobody paid us. Brothers and sisters, we voluntarily proclaim this message every day. And we are not rich, we are poor people. Although God bless us, that we still survive. Brothers and sisters. But for myself, if I'm only deceiving people, then why I need to continue this program, this effort? Even myself, brethren, I prayed several times to the Lord that if there is a possibility that even myself, I cannot recognize that I am deceiving people, that I am thinking that I'm doing the work of the Lord, while in reality I am deceiving people, I pray to my God that I am willing that God would take my life, to lay me down to sleep than to continue this work, deceiving people. Brothers and sisters, and to repeat again, those who warned that stop deceiving people, stop misleading people. But the thing, brothers and sisters, Sister White and Betty Hunter never followed such method. Sister White never says, stop deceiving people, stop misleading people. Even Betty Hunter. What they did, they present the truth. Even in Desire of Ages, I think 498, I love so much that statement. It says, I would like to read to you. It says here, Desire of Ages, on page 498, it says, the way to dispel darkness is to admit light. The best way to deal with error is to present truth. It is the revelation of God's love that make manifest the deformity and sin of the heart centered in self. So that is the best way to deal with error, is to present the truth. That is proclaiming the gospel in positive way. For example, if I could present to the people that the true Sabbath, the true rest day is the seventh day. So even though I will no longer say that Sunday is a false Sabbath, it is already a declaration that Sunday cannot be the true Sabbath. That is the best way to deal with error, is to present the truth. And that is why B.T. Hunter says in the old symbolic code that in warning the people, let me see if I could remember that statement. Warning the people not to listen, or let me see if I could remember this. In the old symbolic code, it says, is the greatest of all error. Because the same procedure that had been followed by the opposers of the message of B.T. Hawkett in his days, warning him, stop deceiving people, stop misleading people. And B.T. Hawkett says that that is one of the greatest error. Why not present the truth? Why not show them the true message? One symbolic code, 810 page 5. Yes, let me read. One symbolic code, number 18 on page 5. Let us read the statement given by the shepherd. 1 TG number 18 page 5. A warning against error proves to be greatest of error. You see? One symbolic code, number 18 page 5. A warning against error proves to be the greatest of error. Because that method never been followed by all God's servants. They just present the truth and let the truth set you free. So we will continue this subject, brothers and sisters, and hoping that the good Lord will bless us. So the time is no longer far distant that we will be able to measure the strength of Israel. Thank you very much. May the good Lord bless you and have a wonderful evening.